Now, oh boy, I have another theory. And I don't know if it's going to be any good, but alright, hear me out here. Alright, hear me out here. So, maybe we have it all backwards and the knight is actually doing a good thing. Right? Last time I proposed that maybe the Ralsei is a villain because of his motives of trying to resurrect his own home, which had already been destroyed by Varorian. Right? So maybe he somehow knows a way to fix things over there and undo the damage. Not necessarily. But I have a different theory, and it's going to be taken in a bit of a different direction. And I'm just going to say it so I don't take up too much time. What if Ralsei is the villain? What if Ralsei is the villain? I don't know any motive. I'm not going to be saying any motive, but I am going to be saying what it kind of seems like is happening, and what he's doing seems a little villainy. Okay, let's lay things out. So it said that a Lightner, as Ralsei says at the end of Chapter 2, a Lightner, if they've used their determination or whatever it is, and use their sword, or even a pin would work, just plop that right into the ground, and that will open a dark fountain. So where is this darkness coming from? It can't come from a Lightner, because Lightner is a Lightner. It comes from the light world, right? Lightners come from the light world, so why would a Lightner have all this dark power, dark energy that can make fountains out of it? Well, what is a fountain? Think about a water fountain. What is a water fountain? A water fountain has a lot of water underground. A whole lot of it. An enormous amount. And when that pressure becomes unbearable, it shoots up out of the ground. It becomes a geyser. And a fountain is kind of just like that, but more directed, so that you can try to control it better. So that's probably where this darkness is coming from. So let's see what the benefits and what the pros and cons are to opening up a dark fountain. Well, that depends on what is a pro and what is a con, which we don't know yet. But what we can tell for sure is that if it works like this and there's some kind of magical reservoir of primordial darkness or whatever that's underground, and opening up dark fountains when you stab the ground with a needle or a knife or something of that effect, maybe that's relieving the pressure from it. Maybe this darkness is somehow building because of some kind of outside force, and it's becoming unbearable for the Earth to handle. So when you create a dark fountain, what you're really doing is relieving pressure from it. In other words, this concept also exists in a very popular series called Berserk. You know, Guts, Berserk. If you've seen that, you'll know. Well, maybe if you've gotten to the end of the series yet, you'll know that there's a thing called the World Tree, and the World Tree is like the embodiment of a fracture between the astral plane and baseline Earth. So it causes magical things to happen and all kinds of weird shit. This giant tree, air quote tree, but really it's more like a fissure. It's just like this crack in reality where magic starts happening because it doesn't make any sense. But this magical tree thing, which again is actually like a fissure in reality, is causing all kinds of horrible shit to come through. Goblins and Cthulhu and all kinds of shit that kills people. So it's a bad thing. It's causing the entire astral plane to merge with the real world. But in the story of Berserk, there is also other trees that grow on this that have a parasitic nature. Like on the island of, I think there are fairies. By the way, if you've seen Berserk, you'll know that this is way less fantastical. On the island of fairies, we have where all sorts of good magic kind of happens. You got all your unicorns, your rainbows, your fairies, all the good stuff, rather than all the stuff that wants to kill and rape you. That tree siphons off the power of the World Tree. It tries to kill the World Tree by siphoning power away from it and into the Parasite Tree. And in this way, the Parasite Trees that are all over the world try to keep the World Tree in check by taking away its power and directing it better. So maybe that's what the Dark Fountains in Deltarune are, because I know that Toby Fox is very big into Eastern culture, specifically Japanese culture, and I'm sure that he knows of Berserk. And when you look at the similarities between world trees from Berserk and dark fountains from Deltarune, the resemblance is a little bit uncanny, to be honest. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. So all I'm gonna say here is, what if Ralsei closing up the dark fountains is kind of like Griffith killing off these island trees? In other words, Ralsei is trying to build up the pressure from this massive reservoir underground. And the end goal is to close all the dark fountains so that there isn't any pressure. Then, eventually, when it grows large enough, what happens? The bubble pops, and everything goes kaboom, so to speak. Or because it's magical darkness, I guess it saturates everything and it cover the sky in black and terror or something like that. And the ground would crack with fear. That sounds like a lot of destruction. Now, does that happen because more dark fountains appear? Or does that happen because the massive reservoir underground has no place to be relieved through the fountains, because somebody keeps closing them? Now, you may say that the Castletown one works as this. As long as the Castletown one exists, then there is some kind of relieving of the pressure of the reservoir, because the Castletown fountain exists. But what if that's not enough? I don't know, it's just my thought. It's kind of like a different interpretation on so many theories about why Ralsei is evil or whatever. Well, instead of thinking about why Ralsei is evil, why not think about what he's doing? His motive is to close dark fountains. And at every opportunity, he always reminds the player, the characters, everyone, why you should close a dark fountain. At the end of Chapter 2, when Noel wants a perfect world, he says, no, that will destroy the world. You can't do that. He also says it to Susie, and when she says that she doesn't care either way whether the world ends or not, he just tells her, hey, you know, your only way of getting out of here is if you do it. You do what I say, or you don't get out. So in other words, he just really wants these dark fountains closed. And while you may say, no, that's unintentional, it's just a fact that they can't leave unless they close the dark fountain. Well, that's not necessarily true either. They don't necessarily have to close the dark fountain in order to leave, because we see that them jump in and out of the dark world of Castletown. Now you may say Castletown is special somehow, but what makes Castletown special? Chris jumped out of the dark world of Castletown. He jumped out of it so that he could collect the things in the other room. He could stack all of it on his head when his mom was looking for him, which is a funny thing, and then come back. So he can freely go and come. He can come and go as much as he wants from Castletown. Why is this? He doesn't have to close the Castletown fountain. So it's not about closing the fountain. Ralsei just wanted him to close the fountain. There was probably an exit that he could have left regardless, that we just don't know about. Again, those are just some of my thoughts. If you don't like them, then you don't like them. If you think this was a waste of time, then it was a waste of time, but... Before the video ends, I also wanted to bring light of another fact. This is just really quick. I'll be done very quickly. I'd just like to point this out. What I was talking about a few minutes ago before I stopped my recording was about how there might be a reservoir of magical darkness under the ground that's building pressure, right? Right? Just pointing it out here. There are darkness totems. The statues that you see everywhere in Hotland in Undertale are called darkness totems. Gaster, who disappeared mysteriously, talks about darker yet darker yet darker. Photon readings negative. This next experiment seems very interesting, right? So, Gaster made the core. The core has darkness totems. He's talking about darkness. But, just pointing it out here, the core is deep underground. And the thing that powers the underground, the whole entire grid, the whole energy grid, that powers people's lights, keep them on, powers people's stoves, and everything of that nature, all comes from the power of the core, which is described as taking magical thermal energy. Not just thermal energy, thermal magic energy. Thermal magic energy, with all kinds of darkness themes, in the core. Just pointing it out here. Just pointing it out. Oh, and one more thing. One thing I've also noticed to topple on top of that note is that the underground has a power grid. Alright? The underground has a power grid. And it comes from the core, which is deep underground because of thermal vents and whatnot. Or maybe for harnessing darkness or something like that, to that effect. But what about Deltarune? Where's Deltarune's power grid? Well, they have the bunker. They have a deep underground bunker, which can shelter them from any kind of event that happens above ground. Who's to say that that isn't Deltarune's version of the core, and that it isn't a dark fountain? My guess is that somehow, in some way, shape, or form, the bunker was already converted into a dark world ages ago. Chris knows about it, but can't do anything about it for some reason or another. I'm just adding on a random tangent at the end here, but I don't know. What do you guys think? If you hear this, I really do want... If you've heard this all the way to the end, I really do want to hear what you think in the comments. If you don't have any thoughts on it, then I guess, I don't know, maybe the video is wasted, but if you agree, I'd like to know. If you don't, tell me why, and if you have your own theory, I am very curious. I always like hearing different perspectives on things. I love it. I will not... trust me, I will welcome whatever you have to say. That's it. Bye. Also, this is fun.